Dr. Rezaei, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before I begin to talk about the Canadian situation and this country vis-a-vis Iran, I wanted to get your thoughts on the protests that we're seeing not only in Iran but in other countries around the world. What is it about the death of Mahsa Amini that's inspired people to come out and condemn the regime?
Well, Mahsa Amini was arrested by the Islamic Republic's chastity police for not wearing the mandatory hijab. And she died in custody because she was brutally beaten by the chastity police. But apart from her tragic death, which caused rage, women are angry because of the regimes imposing discriminatory Sharia law on them, which basically considers women as second-class citizens. However, this is not the whole story. Iranians are unhappy with 43 years of corruption, kleptocracy, mismanagement, discrimination against the ethnic, religious, and gender minorities by the regime, and the regime's destructive foreign policy, which basically welcomed global sanctions and the US sanctions, policies such as nuclear and ballistic missile programs, and also unreasonable enmity with the United States and Israel. That's what inspired the whole nation, and that's why people now are calling for changing the regime rather than changing a particular policy.
Mm-hmm. Now, the government has responded, as you know, with crackdowns. They've been described by Human Rights Watch as brutal, with a cruel disregard for life, and lives have been lost in this crackdown. What impact do you think this action from the government will have on protesters?
Yes, unfortunately, the Iranian regime has responded brutally, and so far, I think, killed approximately 100 girls and boys with an average age of 15-year-old, I think. This brutal repression against children basically makes the regime the #1 child killer regime in the world. Now, what the impact this will have? Actually, the regime's use of violence and brutal force is just making the protests grow. The people's unity this time around, unlike in the past, is really unprecedented. Because for a long time, the Islamic Republic could usually drive a wedge between different ethnicities, including Kurds, Arabs, Baluchis, Azeris, and also Shiites and Sunnis. But this time around, it's fake. What is clear for now is that Iran is in the process of transition. And in my opinion, the response of Iranian society to the death of Mahsa should permanently change the world's interaction with the Islamic Republic.
You say that, and here at home we've been hearing the Conservative Party. It has been calling for the Prime Minister and the Trudeau Liberals to list Iran's Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. What do you make of that call?
Well, actually this call is long overdue because the Islamic Revolutionary Guards has been listed by other countries, including the United States, as a terror organization, and has a long record of terrorism. It has a long record of supporting terrorism and destabilizing the Middle East through its proxies, including Hezbollah, Houthis, Iraqi Hashd-e-Sha'bi, and Yemeni Houthis, and Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. This is basically not a figment of anyone's imagination. And this is the record of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, in which they have destabilized the entire Middle East, and they also persecute religious minorities in the region, including Christians, both in Iran and also in the Middle East through their proxies. This has been documented that the Islamic Republic's proxies contributed to the plight of Christians in the region. I actually wrote a report about this titled Invisible Jihad. And there is documentation to prove this. So this is not just necessary, but long overdue.
Quickly running out of time, but I do want to ask you, as we see everything that's now happening in Iran, do you think that this will actually bring about concrete change to the regime?
Well, it's probably too soon to assess what is really going to come out of this protest, whether this will result in meaningful change or otherwise. But I believe what is happening now is a turning point. What is really happening is a turning point in the sense that Iran is now, I mean, the history of Iran, at least during the Islamic Republic, is divided between before the death of Mahsa and after the death of Mahsa. I believe Iranians are the Iranians are steadfast in changing the regime. They really want to change the regime. They are fed up with 43 years of regimes, bad policies, bad behaviors. And I expect if they continue, if this protest continue, and if they have the support of international organizations and democratic countries, we should expect change in the long run.
Dr. Farhad Rezaei, thank you.
Thank you very much.